my phone behind it so that the box thingy doesn't slide because it is wet.
Okay, get on top. Yo, what's up good people, it's your boy Dennis Ngango and welcome back to Defining. Right now I am at Tux. The Defining team has their very first radio interview. I am reunited with the team. We're about to go live on Tux FM all together and I'm super excited for a number of reasons. Number one, if you guys don't know, now you know that radio is actually my first love. So if you check out my TED Talk, I loved radio. Everything started by radio. So now I'm taking my favorite people to radio. You feel me? And I don't want to leave you guys behind. So now we got this vlog going on radio. The videographer, cameraman himself. Okay, all right. Ah.
Did I die? That's the word.
I'm happy to see Norma. Like, that is the first biggest thing.
Bongani is busy being emotional. Views, 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 views. Oh, you guys are mad cool now, okay.
Yeah. You like this?
In studio, I've got the Defining team here. What's up?
Baby.
Excited! Oh my gosh! For today, how we're gonna start the show off, right? We're gonna play a little game. It's called Two Truths and a Lie. And because, you know, Defining recently has been about friendships, relationships, and so forth, let's, you know, try to keep it in that spectrum of life. So relationships-wise.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay. Alright.
My two truths and a lie would be, okay, I, for the first time in a really long time, only have one crush. Two, I have been single for over 6 years now. Three, I've had my heart broken too many times to count.
Those are also difficult.
Yeah.
They're not difficult. They're easy.
So Bongani, tell us which one is the lie then.
The lie one is the last one. Norma hasn't been. No, Norma. I know, you haven't been
She's a
broken.
fag, that's also
No, Norma.
So you guys are basically saying
But then
that I've
also-
never had
so
my
many
heart broken.
times.
But also the whole single thing, you could be that person who's like, if we're not exclusive, then I belong to the streets.
Exactly.
So,
Isn't that everyone?
so that means that technically 6 years could also
Isn't
be a
that
thing.
everyone? I mean, like, if you haven't asked me, Norma, will you be my girlfriend? Rajol?
Rajol.
That's why I'm saying the 6 year one could
You're not my
be a
person.
reality.
I think the 6-year one is true, and I think. What is the first one again?
The first
The
one
crush.
was that I
First
only
crush.
have one crush right
One
now.
crush.
For the first
Yeah,
time and the
I
one this
think-
time.
Yeah, I think the last one is a lie.
No, the last one. I'm definitely sure it's the last one. That's the lie.
No,
That's
what
the
is
lie.
it? What is it, Norma?
It's the last one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've only gotten my heart like seriously broken once ever.
Two truths and one lie. Ne? First of all, you guys know that I'm in a relationship, right? That's obviously like a clear truth. Ne? But one, I've introduced my girlfriend to my parents.
Okay.
Second one, I've never met my girlfriend's friends.
Okay.
The last one, it has to do with me. I'm not a Christian.
Wait, how long have you guys been dating? I need context.
We've been dating for 3 years and a couple of months.
What was the first one?
What is it? The
He's never introduced her to
your
his parents, and the
Yes.
second one was she's never been introduced. He's
No,
never
he hasn't
met
met
friends,
her friend.
and the last one is that he's not a Christian. And the game is two truths and a lie, right?
Yeah, so
the last one is a lie.
Let's move on. Let's keep it moving. We already know.
Danny boy, hot boy Danny.
Hey,
Hot boy Danny in the building. All right, two truths and a lie. First one, my crush has been on the YouTube channel. It's either two truths or a lie. Second one is, I don't know why everyone's talking about I have a type.
Okay.
Second
next
one. And then third one is, guys.
It's hot in here.
Girls with dreads turn me on.
Okay.
Which one is it? It's hot.
Okay. I say that the second one. Okay, wait. Okay, the second one. I'm saying the second one is a lie. The only reason I'm not saying the third one, is because I wanted to say the third one, but like there's a specification. It needs to be while taking care of and groomed dreads. So I'm assuming that that's in the subtext. That's why I'm saying the second one. So I'm saying the second one, that Dennis has a type.
Yeah, I don't think Dennis is a type. Yeah, second one as well.
I mean, I'm saying the last one.
It's tricky.
Dennis and dreads.
It's tricky.
Dennis and dreads, Dennis. I mean, I'm saying nah.
Bongani.
Nah, fam.
Bongani.
Nah.
Bongani.
Guys, your Klemawisas, your I can't mention other people. But the second one is the lie. I don't have a definite type.
Really?
But,
All I'm saying is that's my job as the producer.
I think all I can really say is that I'm definitely more on the chocolate side of life. But let's keep it moving.
What's happening?
This weekend is still there.
1, 2, 1. Yay!
What happened?
Guys, this is
all
a
right,
fracture.
The channel started in 2015, well, according to my research, as Dan corrected. And I want to know from get-go what inspired the channel. Why did you start a YouTube channel?
Well, the channel first was Defining Dennis.
Yes.
So when I was coming up with the name, I wanted something to like align. I wanted to have that alliteration vibes. So defining was the word, and it was Defining Dennis. And I started that because I really wanted just to connect with young people and to like just to empower people. That's always been my passion. I think it being through the video form or audio form through my podcast is a different thing, but I just always wanted to connect with people. So I started the channel, and then we did it from 2015. I met Bongani while I was still Defining Dennis in 2017.
Yeah.
And then in the beginning of the year, after a 4-month sabbatical, it became Defining, and Norma just came along.
Done.
Yeah.
With that being said, the transition from Defining Dennis into Defining. What went into that? What was the thought process? Did you guys sort of know from the get-go, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, but how did it all just sort of culminate into this thing that it is right now?
I think I reached a moment when I knew that Defining Dennis was reaching its limit, because that was just my own narrative. And I feel like as Africans, there's so many powerful narratives in our households, in our community. So I was like, let's open up the conversation, just keep it as defining, and let's be able to define different things, defining love, defining, mental health, defining pride, breaking barriers in every sense. And I think that was really the plan.
In terms of, authentic storytelling, now, your content is heavily based on telling the average, everyday African woman, man, gender non-binary human being story. Why this route? Why did you guys choose to go this route?
I think it's just because, there is just a general stereotype about the African continent and African people, and being able to tell our stories our way through our own lens instead of other people doing that for us. Make sure that we're presenting ourselves as we are, not how people perceive us.
In the space that you guys work in, it's very collaborative. Very much a lot of different energies coming in and out. How do you guys remain true to yourselves as, a creative, as a person who was like, I'm this person, even with all the energies that come in and out?
Okay, cool. So I think one of the most powerful thing when it comes to African stories, né, is that each and every one of us has a story. It's just about how you tell it. That's why from our side, like starting with Dennis, the moment I met Dennis, he had a story to tell. It was a very unique story. From his side, he thought it was a normal story, right? Right, Dennis? For me, it was very unique. So it's more about how you tell a story. That's why from our side, like the way you see the combination of our team, the way we are, each and everyone is different. So each and everyone represents a different, a different perspective when it comes to African storytelling. So now all of us combined, we make that combination to say, okay, cool. We are the perfect guys to tell an African story, but we are just a vessel in this case.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think like, especially with working all together, the three of us, is that there's no limitations.
True.
What I think might not work, Norma will find a way to make it work. Or Bongani will be like, what about this? You know? So we make sure that it's a collaborative space, and there's no one whose opinion counts more than anyone else's. Whether you're part of the production or you're in front of the screen, everything matters. And I think that's how you keep the vulnerable story in its truest form.
What have some of the biggest challenges been coming into the space, or now redefining defining? I know people often think overnight success, what hello. It was so much more than that. What were some of the challenges that you faced building up to this point and also in this current moment?
Sure. I think the challenges that we faced is really just, I think it's been a matter of time and getting time to get through to everything, because just because we have this incredible platform doesn't take us away from the harsh realities of South Africa. So we still work full-time jobs, we're still hustling day to day.
Capitalism.
So we're still doing all those things.
Screaming.
And then on top of that, we do defining as well. So it's very tough, and we all make sacrifices. I mean, with defining, everybody's put their money in. No one held back, and I think that's what is the biggest blessing for me, is to have such an incredible team that even invested some of their own. So definitely time.
I really cannot adjust to people knowing who I am, recognizing me in the street, and I think that's for me a personal challenge, that like my life is a little out there now. And it might not be on like a great scale or everything, but there are people that are just invested in me as a person. And I'm like so confused. It doesn't make sense.
What is happening? It was all a lie. What have you guys had to teach yourself in this process?
Can I start? Okay, so for me, I think it's only gonna be the only thing I enjoy out of the whole thing, is that enjoy the process of you getting where you wanna go. That's the whole purpose of why I'm doing this. It's just to enjoy the flow while we get to where we wanna go.
I think that's a good one. With me, it's guys, learning to trust myself and my ability. Because like you said, we're going to be talking about mental health later, but just to touch on that, like, when you grow up and no one really like values you and your input and your skills in a way that like makes a difference inside of you, and then you come into the space where like people are standing in a line to ask for advice from you, and it's just so weird, because now I have to be like, in my head, I'm like, I'm not the authority on this, guys. But all these people just want to hear what I have to say, and they want to know how I can input into what they're creating so that they can get better and they can get to a point where we are. And I'm still here like, baby girl. So just learning to trust myself, trust that my input is valid and it is valuable and it brings about change. That is, above all else, the one thing that I think was the hardest to teach myself, but the most necessary.
So good.
Denny boy?
I think from me, hot boy Denny, 2 things. I think from me, number 1 is definitely editing. Editing is a skill that I've had to learn, but it's one that I love because it really puts a story well together.
Your editing is
Thank you. So definitely editing. And then the second thing that Bongani knows from the beginning, Norma knows as well. The one rule we have is do not disqualify yourself. There's so many people on that channel where even us were like, how are you here? It's just even like when we were shooting Defining Love with George and Sasha, and now we're in Sibu's house.
And it's just
us, and we're about to like shoot this episode, and it's a thing of we are worthy to be in this moment. We are worthy to be in the room, and we are worthy to be able to speak to different people and say, come into our space, because our narrative is worth it, our vision is worth it, and our beings are worth it too.
Moving on to sort of mental health now. October is the month designated for everything mental health wow, it's a cool. Hallelujah. In terms of spreading awareness as well as knowledge when it comes to mental health issues. Now, when did you as individuals start grasping the concept of mental health? Because I don't think that was a thing that we were ever taught.
Especially as like black people. That's not something we're raised on. You know? But I would say for me, it was in first year, and it was with the help of my sister, honestly. Like, she could see that I was struggling, and from the conversations we were having, she could tell that I wasn't in a good space. And she recommended I see someone, just like get a screening, maybe, you know, try and get help to navigate my feelings and my thoughts and everything. And that's when I started educating myself about mental health, and also because I was taking psychology in first year as well and second year. So just those two things coming together just helped me realize that, you know what, you need to admit that there's a problem. And once you admit that there's a problem and you accept it, you can now work on being in a better space instead of you just drowning by yourself and not asking for help. So that's when I became aware of like the concept of mental health, and that you can struggle with it, and that it's not something foreign or like weird or taboo. It's actually something that we need to openly talk about.
True. I think for myself it was in matric. I had a very close friend. Her name was Basitsana, and her and I we were in the same transport back and home from school, and we were quite close. And you know, we also had these big dreams together, because you know, I've been a dreamer for a very long time. And in matric, in the beginning of the year, in January, she passed away. And that was like the first big death that I had experienced. And then it was just that thing of not knowing how to deal with it, but then trying to make sense of it. And then I had this phase where like months after the death, if my parents took like longer than 7 minutes to pick me up, or if people were not answering my text, I just automatically think that they're dead, or that they passed away in a car accident. You just panic and you go into this PTSD. So I think that for me was the eye-opener to the conversation. And I think having come out of that space was when I was like, okay, this is mental health is a real thing. Physically, everything's going on. Academics in matric was still being fine, but in my mind, it was going, you know, it was in circles.
Okay, so from my side, it has to be the year 2016, né? 2016, and like this is gonna be for me like the first time ever telling like people about it. Like 2016, the very same office we're in, the very same studio I was in, this like Tax FM became a life changer for me, because at that time I failed my second year, né? I failed my second year, and then I was here at Tax FM most of the time. And then, you know, sometimes when you fail, you sort of lose touch with your friends that were in the same year as you. You now start repeating modules, and then the moment you start repeating modules, you sort of feel that depression coming in. And then luckily enough, like people here in Tax FM, they're very supportive. I know Tax FM is like a family.
It is.
The moment you're in Tax FM, you know that there's gonna be support either way. So I ended up spending more time here in Tax FM, and then I actually got people to say, okay, cool, Bongani, maybe you should just start doing what you love. That's gonna be the key, because at that time, listen guys, I'm good in accounting. Like I'll kill accounting for days.
Yes, boy.
Yeah, one. But then the moment you get to varsity, everything just changes. If you're not doing what you love, it's gonna show that you're not doing what you love. Even if you're good at it, but it's gonna show that you're not doing what you love. So I had to change that and then direct myself to say, okay, cool. listen, Bongani, you need to do what you love. And then Text FM helped me through a lot, hey? So yeah.
What was the difference once you actually decided to take that step? How did the feelings change and your mental space?
So at that time, I know it was, that's why whenever I introduce myself, I say I'm a risk taker. It's because I know I've taken risks in my life.
Yeah.
And then that was one risk I was willing to take, knowing very well that at the end of the day, if you're doing what you love, it's going to be worth it. So after I decided that it was tough at the beginning because now you don't have the support of your parents, first of all, and then that's the biggest thing. But now, after I took the decision to say, okay, cool, I'm going to do what I love, that was like the best decision I've ever taken in my life. I felt peace ever since. I've never looked back till this day. Till this day. So yeah.
On days that you guys do feel, demotivated or heavy-hearted, is your collective is it you guys that sort of boost each other up and help each other? Are there also other people in your lives that you sort of feel like, help towards keeping you a sane human being?
Bongani is the vibe. Just wanted to clear that out, so you all know.
So listen, I think when this thing, I can't explain it properly, but if you would understand the characters, Norma, Dennis, and Bongani, like if you were to say, okay, cool, let's describe this kind of characters, you'd understand that whoever has a weakness at that time, there's always going to be someone who has a strong point at that moment.
Okay.
So each and everyone, if I'm having a down moment to say, okay, cool, guys, listen.
Today's not it.
Today is not it.
Yeah.
I know someone is going to bring in that A game to say, okay, cool, up your game, Bongani. This is what you need to do. Yeah, but
I'm running out of time. I'm literally like 5 to 2 years. Anyway, one question per person. Are we talking enough?
Okay.
Coping mechanisms and any last advice in terms of people, taking care of their mental health.
I don't think we're talking properly about it. And so
Yeah.
we're talking a lot about
Yeah.
it, but we're not using the right language. We're not saying the right things. We're not giving out the correct resources. So I would say that there is a lot of words being said.
Yeah.
We just need
Yeah.
to fix the words we're using and how we're talking to people about mental health, because I feel like with the language you're using, it's not falling on people's ears correctly.
First, start off by knowing your triggers, so that you know when you're about to go left, so you can know what triggers to, what coping mechanisms to put in place.
Yeah.
For myself, I have people that I can rely on that know where I'm at mentally as well, and they also help me deal. On top of that, I know what pushes me in the wrong direction. So not putting myself in those places will help you survive and cope.
Right. And Bongani, last word of advice, and then you guys can just tell us where to find you on the social medias and all of that.
okay, cool, I'm gonna be short, So the thing is, when it comes to mental health, don't sell yourself short, That's key. Do not let people who are in your circle to bring you down. Sometimes you need to be selfish to understand, to say, okay, cool, especially when it comes to relationships. Don't settle for a lower person because now you want to meet this person's standards. Because that's one thing I know, it causes a lot of depression. Second thing is school. Like when you're in school, push until you know, okay, cool, this is my end goal, and I'm gonna do this because I love it. So that's the key point for me.
But know your limits as well, because sometimes
Exactly.
sometimes you're not okay, and it's okay to not be okay.
Exactly.
You can find us, the team, on Instagram at Defining Media and on Twitter at Defining Media ZA. And then you can find me, Norma, at Nomacles, Nomacles, on Twitter and on Instagram. You can find Dennis at Dennis Ngango on all platforms. You can find Bongani at Bongani RSA on all platforms.